It happened fast. Too fast for anyone to stop it. Too fast for the street to understand what it had just witnessed. Daylight. Clear sky. People watching. The boy was already on the ground. Not running. Not reaching. Not threatening. Just standing there seconds earlier. 18. Still carrying school habits in his posture. Still unsure where his hands belonged when adults raised their voices. The officer didn't shout long. Didn't warn twice. Didn't wait. The sound split the street. One shot. Clean. Sharp. Final. The boy fell. Not dramatically. Not like the movies. Just down. Like his legs forgot what they were made for. His mother screamed before she saw the blood. Before she understood the angle. Before the crowd reacted. She ran. No hesitation. No fear. Just instinct. Her hands touched his jacket first. Then his shoulder. Then the warmth. Too much warmth. He was breathing. Barely. The officer stood there. Gun lowered. Face unreadable. Already moving backward in his mind. Already writing a version of events. People shouted. Phones came out. Voices collided. The mother looked up. Her face changed. Not anger yet. Something deeper. Something breaking. She stood. Slow. Unsteady. Her hands shaking. She crossed the distance between them. No words. No plan. Her palm connected with his face. One sound. Flat. Human. The street went quiet. She said things then. Not threats. Not curses. Just truth dragged out of her chest. About her son. About his age. About daylight. About witnesses. The officer didn't respond. Didn't strike back. Didn't arrest her. He stepped away. Radio crackling. Backup arriving. The mother was pulled aside. Held. Not gently. Her son was loaded into an ambulance. Still breathing. Still alive. Barely. The street returned to motion. Traffic resumed. People dispersed. But the moment stayed. Stuck. Heavy. At the hospital, the machines spoke for him. Beeping. Rhythmic. Fragile. Doctors didn't promise anything. They never do. The mother sat. Didn't cry. Didn't sleep. Didn't leave. 2 days passed. The officer stayed home. Didn't report. Didn't speak. Didn't release a statement. On the third morning, he was found. Dead. His house quiet. Undisturbed. No forced entry. No struggle heard by neighbors. Just bruises. Marks. Cut. The story shifted. Violently. By nightfall, the mother's name was circulating. By morning, they were at her door. She was arrested. Calm. Confused. Still wearing hospital wristbands. Her son was still fighting. Machines still breathing for him. They said motive. They said rage. They said revenge. They didn't say proof. She was charged. Held. Scheduled. Court came fast. It always does for people without protection. She stood alone. Hands clasped. Eyes forward. No son beside her. No family filling the benches. The room waited. And then, the doors opened. A woman stepped inside. Unannounced. Unrushed. Carrying nothing. She didn't look at the accused. Didn't look at the judge. She looked straight ahead. At the space where the officer should have been. And when she spoke, the room changed. They wanted it clean. They wanted it fast. They wanted one line to explain everything. Grief turned violent. A mother snapped. A cop paid the price. That was the shape of the story. Neat. Contained. Useful. The courtroom settled into that version quickly. It always does. Files stacked on polished wood. Charges read without emotion. Dates assigned like calendar chores. The mother listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't react. Her hands rested together. Still. As if she was afraid movement might be misread. They showed photos. Not of the shooting. Not of the street. Of the officer's house. Interior shots. Wide angles. Evidence markers. Bruises. Cut. Measured. Catalogued. The implication hung heavy. Personal. Closed. Angry. The prosecution leaned on timing. 2 days. That was all they needed. They leaned on motive, pain, humiliation, witnesses. They leaned on character. Single mother, public outburst, physical contact. They didn't lean on facts yet. They rarely do at first. The defense asked for more time. The judge nodded. Routine. Outside, cameras waited. They always find the wrong person first. The headlines were already written. Short. Certain. In the hospital, the boy drifted in and out. Machines still doing the work. Doctors still careful with their words. His body remembered the bullet even when his mind didn't. No visitors allowed beyond his mother. And she wasn't there. The officer's badge was folded. Presented. Honored. No mention of the shot. No mention of daylight. At the precinct, reports were finalized. Statements aligned. Language softened. Words like threat. Words like perceived. Words like standard procedure. Paper covered noise. Paper always does. Back in holding, the mother replayed the moment. Not the slap. Not the shouting. The fall. The sound. The way his body went quiet. She didn't sleep. Didn't ask for food. She waited. The next hearing came. More people this time. More eyes. And then, movement at the back. A woman again. Same one. She sat alone. Didn't speak. Didn't look around. Someone whispered. Recognition passed quietly. The officer's ex-wife. The room adjusted without saying it. She hadn't been listed. Hadn't been summoned. She was there anyway. When the judge acknowledged her, it wasn't planned. It was necessity. She stood. No notes. No lawyer. Her voice was steady. Not loud. Not emotional. She spoke about time. About patterns. About silence. She spoke about nights when doors closed too hard. About apologies that came too late. She spoke about control. And temper. And knives kept where they didn't belong. The room shifted. Just slightly. She mentioned a journal. A pause. Pages dated. Entries consistent. Bruises explained. Cuts accounted for. Not an intruder. Not revenge. Routine. She looked toward the bench. Then briefly. At the accused. She said one thing then. Just one. He was already bleeding when she last saw him alive. Silence followed. Not disbelief. Recognition. The kind that arrives late. The judge called for recess. Too fast. Too sudden. The system needed air. Outside, the cameras turned. Slowly. Inside, the story cracked. Just enough. The recess lasted longer than planned. Not because of confusion. Because of panic. Clerks moved faster than usual. Phones buzzed where they weren't supposed to. Someone asked for the journal. Someone else asked who authorized it. The ex-wife sat alone. Phil. As if she had already said everything she needed to say. Inside chambers, papers spread. Not neatly. Urgently. The journal wasn't new. That was the problem. Dates went back years. Before promotions. Before commendations. Before the badge carried weight. Incidents recorded in the same handwriting. Same tone. Same restraint. No drama. No exaggeration. Just facts. Broken furniture. Unexplained absences. Medical visits paid in cash. The officer's own handwriting appeared too. Margins. Corrections. Short replies. Denials. Then apologies. Then silence. A pattern emerged. Not violent bursts. Control. Measured. Predictable. The kind that doesn't leave bruises in visible places. Photos followed. Timestamp. Metadata intact. They matched the journal. Too perfectly. The cuts on the body. The angles. The depth. Self-inflicted. Defensive. Domestic. Not a crime scene. A collapse. The knife. Registered. Old. Kept from service. No foreign print. No forced entry. No sign of the mother. The timeline started to shift. Quietly. 2 days earlier. The shooting. The report described resistance. Video showed distance. Stillness. Compliance. The body cam footage had been trimmed. Not erased. Just shortened. Enough to miss the pause. Enough to miss the hesitation. enough to miss the decision. That footage was logged. Approve. Signed. By someone who knew him well. The judge returned. Face unchanged. Voice lower. Proceedings resumed. But the weight had moved. The prosecution hesitated. Adjusted language. The defense didn't rush. Didn't celebrate. They requested disclosure. Full disclosure. And for the first time, it was granted without argument. Outside, headlines updated. Slower now. Less confident. In the hospital, the boy opened his eyes. Just for a second. Asked for his mother. Inside the precinct, a supervisor closed an office door. Locked it. Opened an old folder. Complaints. Never escalated. Never resolved. Transferred. Filed. Forgotten. Until now. The truth wasn't loud. It didn't shout. It stacked. Page after page. Entry after entry. By the time court adjourned for the day, no one spoke to the cameras. They didn't know what to say anymore. The story they wanted was gone. And the real one was too heavy to carry quickly. The badge didn't fall. It stayed where it always had. Pinned. Polished. Heavy. But it stopped working. Not all at once. Not dramatically. It failed in pieces. A request denied. A call not returned. A signature delayed. Small fractures. Enough to let light in. The internal review began without announcement. No press release. No statement. Just forms. Boxes were pulled from storage. Dust lifted. Years settled into the air. Every complaint carried the same note. Insufficient evidence. But now, evidence was everywhere. Audio logs. Patrol schedules. Hospital check-ins logged as training injuries. One nurse had written a note. Not official. Just cautious. Patient afraid to speak. That line was never followed up. Until now. The ex-wife returned the next morning. Not invited. Not stopped. She brought more. Phone backups. Old devices. Receipt. Messages deleted from one account. Recovered from another. Patterns again. Always patterns. Control disguised as concern. Threats framed as warnings. The knife appeared in a message thread. Years old. Joke-like. Then serious. I'll never let you ruin me. It sat there. Unanswered. In court, the prosecution adjusted again. Their voice softened. Their certainty thinned. The mother remained still. Hands folded. Eyes forward. She hadn't spoken since the arrest. No statements. No pleas. Just presence. At the hospital, doctors reduced the sedation. The boy reacted. Pain. Then recognition. He squeezed a hand. Weak. But intentional. That mattered. Back in court, the defense requested a dismissal. Not emotional. Procedural. The judge didn't rule. Not yet. Instead, the judge ordered something rare. A full evidentiary hearing. Public. That decision traveled faster than any headline. Within hours, former partners came forward. Not to testify. Just to ask questions. Supervisors asked for legal counsel. Records officers rechecked timestamp. The body cam footage was reprocessed. Original files located. Nothing was missing. Just buried. The pause. The shift of weight. The moment before the trigger. It was there. Always had been. Someone had chosen not to see it. The officers' commendations were reviewed. One by one. Several cited de-escalation. The irony went unspoken. The ex-wife watched from the back. Not satisfied. Not relieved. Just finished. That night, the mother was returned to her cell. But the door didn't close the same way. The guard hesitated. Left the light on. Outside, the city didn't riot. Didn't celebrate. It waited. Because something was finally moving. And this time, it wasn't running from the truth. The morning arrived without urgency. No sirens. No chance. Just paperwork moving between hands. The mother was brought back to court. Same bench. Same floor. Different air. The charge sheet was thinner. One page removed. Then another. The prosecution didn't meet her eyes. They spoke to the judge. To procedure. To time limits. Outside, a reporter counted steps. Inside, a clerk corrected a date. The ex-wife sat closer now. Not hidden. Not central. Just present. The evidentiary hearing began. Not with testimony. With records. Dispatch logs. Call durations. Response times. A timeline projected on the wall. Plain. Unforgiving. The gap appeared. 12 minutes. Unaccounted. The officer's final movements didn't align. House alarm armed late. Door opened twice. Someone else had been there. The knife wounds were catalogued again. Angles. Depth. Sequence. The medical examiner spoke carefully. Not conclusions. Observations. Several wounds were defensive. None matched the mother's height. Or reach. The courtroom stayed quiet. Not shocked. Focused. The defense didn't smile. They waited. Then came the messages. Printed. Time-stamped. The ex-wife's device confirmed location. Miles away. Another device appeared in the chain. Registered to a burner. Purchased months earlier. The number appeared in the officer's call history. Frequently. Last call. 6 minutes long. The judge leaned forward. The prosecution requested a recess. Denied. The boy's medical update arrived mid-session. Stabilized. Not out of joy. Out of relief. The boy looked up. Eyes bright. Mom, will it always be okay? She squeezed his hand. Yes. Not perfect. Not easy. But right. The city moved on. The mother and son moved forward. Silently. Resolutely. Justice had arrived. Without spectacle. Without fanfare. And in the quiet, life healed. The hospital hallway smelled of antiseptic. Machines beeped softly. Life continuing quietly. The boy's hand held hers. Stronger now. More determined. Doctors exchanged nods. Encouraging glances. Progress, slow but certain. She reflected on everything. The officer's attack. The false accusations. The ex-wife's confession. The court's decision hadn't been the end. It had been a turning point. Neighbors still stared occasionally. But differently now. With respect. With understanding. She returned to her routines. Shopping. Cleaning. Watching her son grow. Some nights, she wrote. Details she would never share publicly. Memories. Lessons. Truths that stayed hers. The city moved on. The media faded to other stories. The viral clip became a memory. Yet the ripple remained. Justice quietly influencing. People watching. Learning. Changing. Her son smiled more each day. Laughed freely. Dreamed without fear. The mother finally slept through the night. No nightmares. No looming threats. She understood the hardest truth. Justice isn't always loud. Not always immediate. Sometimes it is slow. Sometimes it comes quietly. And when it does, it is unshakable. The world hadn't ended. It had corrected itself. She held her son. He held her. In that moment, silence spoke. The story would be forgotten by many. But for them, it would always remain. A testament. To truth. To patience. To survival. The city lights flickered outside. Calm. Unmoving. Like the quiet heartbeat of justice fulfilled. She whispered softly. We are safe now. And for the first time in months, it felt true.